Hope you're well. Hello, everybody. Let's just make sure the YouTube is awake. Make sure everything's connecting. Oh, it's looking good. Yeah, it's looking good. Isn't that beautiful? Yes, yes, yes. Good morning, everybody, or good day, or good evening. Salutations. How's the future? You might be in the future right now. Maybe you're from Australia or something like that, where it's the future. I hope the future's awesome. Hope it's killer. So couple quick announcements. So if you recall the show yesterday, there's some crazy construction going on at my apartment complex right now. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but it might be some of it might bleed in a little bit. In fact, they're drilling right now. They were actually they were actually quiet for like the past hour. As soon as I start the stream, they start drilling something. Go figure. But yeah, I mean, I don't know when they are and aren't going to do stuff, so I have no way of anticipating anything. It's off and on, constantly. They're working on something. It's supposed to be done by next week. I don't know if you can hear any of that at the moment. You might be able to, you might not, but it is something that we're going to be dealing with this week, and we'll be plowing through. Let's see. What else? Oh, something's up with our Reddit subsection. I don't know what or why. Now, our Reddit subsection, reddit.com/r/GetYourNewsOnWithRon. I did not start that subsection. It was started by a listener. But for some reason, there's something like restricted access or something like that. I forget the exact, but only approved users can post stuff on the Reddit right now. I am not myself even one of those approved users, so I don't know who the approved users are. I don't know what's going on there, but I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not super savvy with Reddit. I don't even really know where to go with this. If you're more savvy with Reddit and you want to help out, please feel free to drop me an email, ronflacone.com. Email me there because, I don't know what exactly to do. But right now, the Reddit subsection is pretty much down, and I'm trying to figure that out. So, I think that's about it as far as housekeeping goes. So, guys, yesterday we started the show with an update from the Julian Assange hearing. And today's no different. We have some more updates, and we've been relying a lot on Taylor Hudak. Taylor Hudak is a journalist who is part of the organization Action for Assange, and her organization is in London right now, outside of the courtroom where the trial is going on. And they've been giving us updates. Taylor's been doing updates from the street, from the protests themselves, saying what's going on in the court. So let's start the show going there first.
Hi everyone, I'm Taylor Hudak and I am standing outside Belmarsh Prison in London. Today is the third day of Julian Assange's full extradition hearing. Now standing outside of the prison right now are protesters holding signs that read "Jail the war criminals, free Julian Assange." They're calling for no U.S. extradition and to free Julian Assange. There are also crowds that are closer to the courthouse, but there are people here on the streets right now holding signs at drivers who are passing by. As far as what's taking place inside the courtroom, I will have more updates on that yet to come. Hi, everyone. I'm Taylor.
Sorry about that. And since the posting of that, she does have some updates, and we're going to watch those here in a minute. One thing I noticed that was pretty cool. I mean, keep in mind, she's standing around all of these people who are holding up signs in support of Julian Assange. And I'm sure you could hear it in the video. A lot of people were honking their horns. And they were like supportive sounding honks, like beep, beep, yeah, right? I mean, I think, you know what I think? This is sort of an aside on that. So my point is, it's kind of uplifting that the people were honking their horns a lot in this quick segment that she did. But I think we need to have multiple car horns. You know what I mean? Like we need to have, because sometimes it's hard to sometimes you're at a stoplight and the person in front of you, they're just, whatever. Maybe they're looking at a tree, or maybe they're, likely they're texting, which is bad. You should not text and drive. But, you want to give someone the benefit of the doubt. And whenever it's a stoplight and you know that they just didn't notice that it's green quite yet, you just kind of want to tell them, not to be like, move it, jerk, but just to be like, hey, it's green, doodly doodly. And there's no way to do that. And I think, and if you're anything like me, sometimes you like, I try to, my horn, like beeping abilities goes from 0 to 10, just like that. Like, I don't know how. And I've tried. Usually when I just try to do a little tap, like nothing comes out. Like I'll try to do a tap and then there's nothing. And then I'm like, God damn it. And then it's just burn. And I'm like, shit. Now I look like I'm really mad at them. I'm not. I was just trying to let them know. And they're like, come on, geez, sorry, dude. And it's like, well, I don't know how. There should be like multiple levels of the horn where there's like one horn where when you push that's like, whoa, you were in the wrong, not cool. And then another one's just like, hey, just letting you know. Just letting you know there's something you need to see. And I know people do that by controlling the volume of their horn. And, I'm not good at doing that. I'm just really bad at it. I should do, like, whenever I honk in solidarity with a cause, I usually do a thing so they know, like I do a da, 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 like I do one of those. So it's loud, but it's like, yeah. And then I give a thumbs up too. So they're like, yeah, that dude. Like I'll see like anti-war banners or something, or like a peace banner or like a Bernie banner, whatever. I do like you can never go wrong with the dot, 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 dot. And then if you see a friend next to you, I mean, that's another rule of thumb. Whenever you're driving and you see a friend next to you, you see someone you know, which that doesn't happen often, but occasionally it does. What you do is you do the dot, 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 dot. And then if they're cool, they do dot, dot. Right? All right. That's amazing how I got off on that tangent. So we're covering the Julian Assange. We're covering Julian Assange, a guy who is in a court hearing, and his life is on the line, and he's been subjected to torture for 7 years. And this is one of the biggest assaults on press freedom of all of our lifetimes. And I'm talking about car beeping etiquette. It's weird how sometimes you get sidetracked. But anyway, let's get back to Taylor's videos. All right, so here's another one that she had. And this is all, of course, from today. These are day 3 updates. So let's go to her second one here. Let me go ahead and start it from the beginning and get the volume up for you.
Hi everyone, I'm Taylor Hudak and I'm outside London's Belmarsh prison. Today is day 3 of Julian Assange's full extradition hearing. We are learning from inside the courtroom that the defense is presenting evidence that this case is in fact a political case. And under the US-UK extradition treaty, the UK government is prohibited from extraditing a person to the United States for political purposes. We are also learning that Kim.com, an internet entrepreneur from New Zealand, was the individual who facilitated and helped the meeting between ex-Congressperson Warbacher and Julian Assange take place in London. And Kim.com also revealed that President Trump was well aware that this meeting was taking place. Kim.com also revealed that he believes that this case continuing to go through is a retaliation for Assange's reluctance to provide his sources for the DNC leak.
All right, so a couple things going on here today. So yesterday, for those of you that were watching what we went through yesterday, where we watched Taylor's videos yesterday they were just kind of breaking through and debunking all the factors in this case. There's no evidence that anyone was put in danger by the information that WikiLeaks published. Also, something very similar was published in a book that came out prior to WikiLeaks release. In fact, that book, which was in conjunction with The Guardian and WikiLeaks, had a password in it too. So there's all those factors going on. There's also the factor that there is no evidence, none whatsoever, that Julian Assange cooperated and helped Chelsea Manning with a hack. There's no evidence that any of that happened. They're trying to torture Chelsea Manning into confessing that it did. Basically, they're trying to get a false confession out of Chelsea Manning. That's why what's happening to Chelsea Manning is happening. So they're bringing all of this up in the courtroom. That's what they did yesterday. Today, they're going on the side of this is also considered a political offense. And as Taylor mentioned, in international law, that means the UK cannot expedite Julian Assange to the United States. And, I don't know I don't know every single detail of the ins and outs of a political offense versus a criminal offense. I can't speak to every single detail there. But what we do know is that a political offense is treated much differently. A good example of this is Edward Snowden. One of the main reasons Edward Snowden does not go back to face trial is because they're not treating what he did as a political offense. He broke this down in the interview he did with Joe Rogan, which I highly recommend watching if you've never watched it before, where he says, look, people tell me to come home and face the music. I say I'd love to. Let's pick the song. Barack Obama had the opportunity to label what he did a political offense. Barack Obama chose not to. When something is deemed a political offense, it is treated much differently than if you're just treated like a criminal. And that's what Edward Snowden. Now, how is something deemed a political offense? Well, when you did something that technically broke the rules, but you did it in what you deemed the public interest. And it straight up was the public interest. It's like, okay, technically, you published something confidential or you blew the whistle or whatever. This was technically illegal what you did, but you did it acting in the best interest of the public. That is what is deemed a political offense. So they're saying, look, this should be a political offense anyway. There's no way this is not he did not do anything criminal here. He just published documents. That's his job. He's a publisher. I don't even, now, obviously, I don't even think it should be a political offense, but, they're bringing about these ridiculous charges, and the lawyer's job is to defend Julian Assange. So they're saying, look, this would be a political offense anyway, which means you can't send this guy to the U.S., where he is for sure not going to get a fair trial. So those are the different angles they're going at. First, they're taking the case apart, and they're doing a good job at it. At least it seems like. I mean, we're only privy to so much. But based on everything that's been available to us so far, it sounds like the defense is doing a decent job in defending him, poking holes in the case itself, exposing the case itself for being just a scam BS case, and then also saying the way this offense is being treated isn't even proper. And then the third factor in bringing the Trump administration into the mix and framing the narrative, which is probably 100% accurate, that a lot of this is in retaliation of Julian Assange not wanting to give up a source. Why would Trump just say, oh, I'll pardon you if you just say that Russia had nothing to do with the DNC leak? Well, Julian Assange has been saying that from day one. He already has that. Well, what else does the Trump administration want? They likely want a source. So those are all the angles, and every single thing is pushing towards, you got to pardon this guy and free him immediately. And chances are it will not be until summer when we hear, anything close to a verdict on this. So, there's a long way to go. We're not going to have an answer this week. But so far, based on everything that's available, there's some reason for hope. Of course, to paraphrase Tyrion Lannister, in regards to this case, the fact that this is even a case to begin with, if you've come here looking for justice, you've come to the wrong place. But, we can't give up hope. So here's the third video Taylor did. And apparently, Julian Assange spoke today himself. And here's what she has to say about that. I think this is an important part to watch as well. Let me back it up and get the volume for you.
I'm Taylor Hudak, and I am outside of London's Belmarsh prison. We are learning from inside the courtroom right now that Julian Assange has addressed the court. He is requesting for some additional time to work with his attorneys. He said that he has merely been a spectator in all of this. Assange's attorneys are also going to file an application requesting that Assange be able to sit next to them during tomorrow's court hearing.
So, based on her summary, it sounds like he was able to speak and conduct himself in the courtroom. That is a good thing. There were some moments prior where he was just, he was having trouble focusing. He was kind of erratic, and he was showing behavior that's the type of behavior you can expect from someone who's been in solitary confinement as long as he has. Solitary confinement is a form of torture, and that's what he's been going through. And he was showing those types of symptoms. He couldn't focus. He couldn't really express himself. and he was kind of melting down. And that was their goal. That was their goal by doing what they did to him. That's what they wanted. So, when you kind of summarize yesterday and today, just the fact that they're poking holes in the case itself, they're bringing up how it should be deemed a political offense, if anything. They're pointing out the fact that this is retaliation for not giving up a source, which is a principle WikiLeaks stand on and should be rewarded, not punished. And the fact that Julian Assange is composing himself in court, these are all positive things. Is there still a lot to be worried about? Of course. Is it still light years beyond criminal that this is even happening in the first place? Yes. This is the biggest assault on press freedom of my lifetime that I am aware of. I mean, like this. I mean, and they're all connected. I mean, Chelsea Manning, Edward Snowden. You really kind of link them all together. But it's crazy to be witnessing and living through all of this in our contemporary society. And, somebody tweeted this to me yesterday. They said, you know what? History is going to judge us harshly for this. They really are. But to quote the Hold Steady, one of my favorite bands, you got to stay positive. So that's the update for today from the Julian Assange case. And, I do think there are some things to be optimistic about, but, we got to stay eyes and ears to the ground, and we got to stay active, and we got to stay, we got to stay on top of this. And, again, shout out to Action for Assange and Taylor Hudak. You can follow them at Action for Assange 4 and at _Taylor Hudak. And shout out to them for being our boots on the ground and for doing such a good job. All right. So last night's debate, man, who saw it? So I didn't get to see all of last night's debate. I saw a little bit of it. Like I was watching it online, and then I have an acting class on Tuesday. So I had to drive to class. And while I was driving to class, you know what? It turns out you can get the presidential debate on radio, at least where I live in Los Angeles, you could. But it was by this like random AM station where the signal was like, I felt like I was like living in the 80s or something. Like it was like I had this AM signal going, and it was the debate. So I listened to some of it in the car, and then when I parked my car, I tweeted all my thoughts because I try to live tweet every debate. I didn't live tweet as much as I typically do because I wasn't present for all of it. But as I was watching that debate, there were so many questions to Mike Bloomberg that were just setups on the tee. Where it was just the one that comes to my mind first is they asked him, they were like, hey, you outlawed, big sugary drinks and stuff like that, like large sizes in New York City. Do you want to do that in every city? And he said, I kind of think that what's good for New York isn't necessarily good for every city in the country. Otherwise, every town would have a naked cowboy. And it just sounded so scripted. By the way, didn't get a laugh. You'd think with all the billions Mike Bloomberg has, he'd hire a joke writer. If he wants to make a joke, you think he could hire a joke writer, but that joke got 0 laughs. But he got a lot of applause from the audience anyway. He really did. And the other thing that they asked him how his policies helped life expectancy in New York. They were like, oh, did you help life expectancy in New York? And he had all these statistics ready that he threw at them. Now, look, do I have any evidence that Mike Bloomberg had the questions in advance? Of course I don't. But man, when you listen to him, it was like, this sounds like every question set up on the tee for him. Every answer sounds so incredibly scripted. Oh, and by the way, the audience really cheering a lot for Mike Bloomberg and Joe Biden, booing Bernie quite often. Gee, why was that? It was kind of weird. Is that really the pulse of South Carolina completely? Well, sounds like not necessarily, because here's what you had to do to get into that debate. Check this out. Want a guaranteed seat at the Democratic debate in Charleston? This is in reference to last night's debate. It'll cost a lot of cash. How much cash? You had to be a sponsor, quote unquote, to get into this debate last night. And what does the sponsorship range from? $1,750 to $3,200. So the people sitting at that debate paid $1,700 to $3,200 to be there. That's first of all, who would pay that? I mean, people where money's just not a factor, obviously, because who would? I wouldn't even pay that much to see my favorite band. You know, like I can't think of a band touring today that I would pay that much to go see. And man, live music's one of my favorite things in the world. I love live music to death. Going to concerts, one of my favorite things in the world. And you know, it's what I spend a lot of my leisure dollars on because it's something I really love to do. But man, $1,700. You know, one of my favorite. Hey, The Cure's coming. Oh yeah, should we get tickets? It's $1,700. Yeah, that's ridiculous. I mean, what do they throw out gold after every song? How do they like? Do they play? Do you get to? Does each member of the audience get a personal request to Robert Smith directly, and he sings it to them? Is that what happens? $1,700 to go to a Cure show. So obviously, if someone who's spending that kind of money, my point, money is completely not an issue for them. Like $1,700 to them is just nothing. Because who would spend that? And to most people, that's a significant amount of money. Man, $1,700 to sit through that circus. By the way, worst moderating job so far this year. The moderating job at last night's debate was absolutely horrific. I have been in high school debate tournaments when I was in high school. I was participating in them. That'd be weird if I just went to them. I'd like to go to high school debate tournaments. Like to hear what the youth is saying about issues. But I have been to debate tournaments in high school as a participant that were ran better and moderated better than that circus last night. I mean, at one point, Pete Buttigieg just spoke over Bernie Sanders for like 30 seconds. They did nothing. They did absolutely nothing. Oh, and by the way, at one point, Joe Biden just completely cut off Klobuchar. And then when she tried to finish her thought, cut her off again, put his finger up at her, and started just speaking out at her. And man, if Bernie Sanders would have done that to Amy Klobuchar, the Mick resistance would have been screaming sexist at the top of their lungs. I mean, come on, at the top of their lungs, they'd be, if that was Bernie Sanders that did that. Anyway, hey man, I don't like Amy Klobuchar. I'm not an Amy Klobuchar fan at all, but it was absolutely ridiculous. He just completely cut her off mid-thought and just started, dumping all over her, Joe Biden did. I mean, it was rude, and the fact that the moderators didn't shut it down proved they weren't doing their job, where they were like, excuse me, let her speak. It is her time. You can respond after. They didn't even do that. And then when Liz Warren went after Bloomberg, and she was right, the things Liz Warren were saying in this case were right about Mike Bloomberg. And again, Liz Warren is not somebody I agree with often. I'm not a fan of hers. I certainly don't want to see her become the nominee because she'd get crushed. But she was bringing up something about Mike Bloomberg, and people just started booing her. And I was also disappointed no one else on stage came to her defense when it came to that and agreed with her. But it was the most horrific moderating job, and the audience seemed so incredibly stacked. And then you found out why. Oh, people paid $1,700 to over $3,000 to be sitting in that debate. Of course, these are Bloomberg's people. Of course, these are Biden's people. There's not going to be many Bernie Sanders fans. So, man, it's like they're doing everything they can to just make it seem completely and utterly fixed. And here's something interesting. I want to share this because somebody said, maybe this is something that Bernie Sanders should start doing. Check this out. Let me put my headset back on here because we got another video. This is from 2016. And this is Donald Trump, of all people. Donald Trump. Check out this video. So in this video, Donald Trump is getting booed. All right, Donald Trump. Let me bring it back to the beginning. And this person, Miles Dyer, who I'm not familiar with this person, but they said, Twitter, does Bernie Sanders need to do this if the booing doesn't stop? All right, so check this out. This is from 2016.
From an elderly woman.
Let me talk quiet.
How tough
a lot of times, that's all of his donors and special interests out there.
So that's what it is. That's what. And by the way, let me just tell you.
He just called it out. Donald Trump just called it out. He was just like, those are all his donors and special interests. He just called it out. And I'm not saying that Bernie Sanders needs to shush people like Donald. That's not Bernie's style. He doesn't need to behave like a bully like Donald Trump does. That's not what I'm suggesting. But man, in that particular, for instance, Donald Trump just called it for what it was. He's like, those are his donors. Those are his special interests. And Jeb Bush, and afterwards, Bernie Sanders did say, he brought up, he's like, hey, I found out how much people paid per seat to be here. And that's something that he should not be afraid to throw that out there on stage. Maybe he didn't know during the debate. I don't know. Maybe during the debate, Bernie Sanders wasn't aware of that information. I wasn't while the debate was going on. I mean, as I was watching it, I was like, wow, this audience is so ridiculously stacked. It's unbelievable. Where did they get this audience? Where did Bloomberg get these questions? And then you found out later, oh, that's what they did. 1,700 to $3,000 to be there. Okay. So maybe Bernie Sanders didn't know that until after he stepped off stage. I don't know. But, that is something he should do, where he should talk to we the people watching this at home. Watching Mike Bloomberg say these horrific things. Watch Joe Biden say these horrific things. And by the way, it looks like Mike Bloomberg and Joe Biden are faring a little bit better in South Carolina. And to you blue no matter who folks out there, South Carolina, is that a state that a Democrat has a chance in the general? Is that really a state that's going to go blue in the general? I doubt it. So if your boy's Joe Biden, and he ain't doing good in any swing states, and he ain't doing good, Iowa, he didn't do good there. He didn't do good in the Northeast. But South Carolina, they like him. Is that your guy? Blue no matter who, that's your guy? The guy that can win in the states where he's for sure going to lose them in the general. What kind of strategy is that, blue no matter who, people? What kind of strategy? My reason for bringing this up, if blue no matter who is your logic, you should totally be supporting Bernie Sanders. If blue no matter who is your logic, you should be supporting the guy that polls best against Trump and can take some of the states away from Trump that'll win the election. And that's Bernie Sanders. But anyway, so that's why last night's debate was beyond a circus. I can't say, and I said earlier, just a few weeks back after that one CNN debate, that debate was the worst display of news and information I've ever seen in my lifetime. And it was. And I do not like to speak in superlatives that often, but it was. That's just the truth. And I want to say that this one overall as a debate was not worse than that other one. The audience was the most ridiculous, and we know why. And I mean, I would not be shocked if Bloomberg had those questions in advance. I mean, when you really and go back and listen to it. Look, I'm not trying to start a conspiracy theory because I don't have any evidence. And I'm not trying to just throw, I have no evidence that that's the case. I'm just saying he sounded so incredibly scripted. And those questions were all just softballs, just lobbed up for him to knock out of the park. That it's like, gee, something smells foul here. I'm sorry. So, but I don't know if I'd say it was overall where, I mean, that CNN debate was just so repulsive and the questions were just and it was just an entire moderating team and every other candidate just crapping on Bernie. And it was so, just poorly managed. And the questions were just, and they didn't know how to alter to any responses. Like, hey, Bernie, how are you going to pay for Medicare for all? Bernie answers how he's going to pay for it. Joe Biden, isn't it unfair? Bernie doesn't say how he's going to pay for Medicare for all. Hey, Bernie, did you say this to Liz Warren? No, I did not. Hey, Liz Warren, how did it feel when Bernie said that to you? It's like they were robots and didn't know how to alter their questions. Like they were just robots. So I don't know. I want to say the CNN one was still the worst. I mean, we are comparing residue from the bottom of the barrel. That is an insult to the even the idea of news and information. I mean, it is just embarrassing. And, you know, if we had any type of journalistic accountability in this country, at least at the corporate level, every single person affiliated with that debate would have been fired on the spot. The moderators, I mean, you know, the camera person, stuff like that, that's not their fault. They have nothing to do with that. They shouldn't be fired. But the people moderating, the people behind the questions, stuff, every single one of them should have just been fired on the spot. Should have been, this is a circus. I'm sorry. There has to be consequences. You are all fired. But anyway, so I don't know. I mean, and I didn't, again, last night, I didn't get to see every single nook and cranny. So, you know, I guess I can't really say one way or the other. I heard enough of it that I don't need to go back through. I heard most of it. I probably missed about, when all said and done, between what I saw as I was getting ready for class and I had it on and I was watching it as I was getting ready, and then what I listened to in the radio on my way to class, I probably missed about 10, 15 minutes total. I don't need to comb through it again. But yeah, I don't know. I think overall, I still think the CNN one is slightly worse. Slightly. They're neck and neck. We might get one that's even worse yet. I mean, nothing would surprise me at this point. But anyway, so that was why the South Carolina debate was so freaking ridiculous. Now, here's something. I feel like, you know, if we're going to talk about our sham debates and an assault on press freedom on Julian Assange, we need to have a little bit of good news. And guess what? We got some. So Pete Buttigieg went to a Fight for 15 rally. He wasn't actually at the rally the whole time. He showed up later in a car and then got dropped off. And here's how he was greeted. Were they happy to see him, you ask? Well, let's find out. Check this out. This is kind of, sort of, really beautiful. They're chanting, if you can see it up here and you can hear it, Pete can't be our president. Where was 15 in South Bend? That's how Pete was greeted when he showed up at a Fight for 15 rally. Let's watch this. He's leaving.
To check out our disability plan, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that
we don't need to hear from him. I'd rather hear from the people. I'd rather hear from the people than hear from people. Judge. Those were unions and workers, and they were chanting, Pete can't be our president. Where was 15 in South Bend? And they were chanting Wall Street Pete. They didn't fall for the fact that he showed up later in a car. He wasn't marching with them. He showed up later for a photo op, and they said, no, thank you, Pete. No, thank you. Good for them. Good for them. Good for the Fight for 15. And good for those unions. And, man, I don't know. I guess it might be hitting Pete Buttigieg a little bit, because here's something else Pete Buttigieg did recently. Check this out. Buttigieg cancels Florida events due to cold. He had a cold. So I can tell you this. Do I know for sure that Pete Buttigieg doesn't have a cold or he's not ill? I don't know that for sure, but I will tell you this. In the concert industry, in the live event industry, when an event gets canceled because the artist has a cold, 90% of the time, it's because ticket sales were low. That's what's really going on. Ticket sales were low, so they canceled an event. Maybe Pete Buttigieg ain't all that popular. So they're canceling events. But let's see what they're claiming here. This is from The Hill. Democratic presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg has canceled events in Florida after falling ill with a cold, his campaign said Wednesday. The AP reported that Buttigieg's campaign said the former South Bend, Indiana mayor would meet in Charleston, South Carolina with the Reverend Al Sharpton as planned while canceling 4 events in Florida, 3 of which were fundraisers. Buttigieg will also travel to Washington, D.C. and attend scheduled meetings with supporters. So private meetings where there might be a paycheck involved, where there might be a little bit of donor money involved. Pete Buttigieg is healthy enough for those. But events for the people, he can't go. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting, the events he's picking and choosing here? It's almost like maybe Pete Buttigieg knows he has no chance of winning and just kind of wants to keep that money train rolling as long as he can so that Bernie doesn't get the majority of delegates going into the convention. Maybe, just maybe. That's the only reason a Pete Buttigieg is still in the race. Because he can't talk to the people. He can talk. I mean, really, read between the lines in that article. They're saying he can talk to the donors still, but not the people. The events where people might, because, hey, they might chant at him to go away again. Like what the Fight for 15 and the unions just did to him in South Carolina. That might happen to him again. He doesn't want that. So he doesn't have time to hear from the people. He doesn't have time for that. Because he has a cold. You watching at home, raise your hand if you had to go to work one time when you had a cold. Or you had to go to school one time when you had a cold. Or you had to, I guess it might get on stage when you had a cold. Cold. Most people don't get to just blow off work when they have a cold. And I can't wait till they say something about Bernie's health. I can't wait till some Buttigieg supporters say something about Bernie's health and Bernie's age. Here's Pete Buttigieg. He has a cold. Is he going to have to cancel a State of the Union when he has a cold? What if he makes some horrible foreign policy decisions? Is he going to blame it on his cold? He had the sniffles. He had taken so much NyQuil that he was kind of loopy. And he bombed a bunch of countries. Whoops. He wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for that cold. Pete doesn't want to talk to the people. That's what's really going on. Pete Buttigieg. All right. So, let me see what you guys are saying. And that's how we'll dismount. By the way, tour dates. I got them, and I got a lot of them. February 29th, that's this coming Saturday. This coming Saturday, people. I'm going to be in San Francisco, California with Graham Elwood. Get your tickets now. Do not wait. Shahid Buttar is going to be making an appearance. There's going to be people tabling. PM Press is going to be there with all their latest publications. There's going to be tabling and mingling at 8 p.m., show at 9. It's going to be a pre-Super Tuesday party in San Francisco, Saturday night, February 29th. Romplacone.com for those tickets. March, we're coming to Florida. We're not Pete Buttigieg. We're actually going to Florida. March 12th, Orlando, Florida. March 13th, Tampa, Florida. March 14th, Miami, Florida. Romplacone.com for tickets. April 9th, I'll be at Concord University in West Virginia. April 10th, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Can't wait to see my hometown again. Come on out, Pittsburgh. Tickets at Romplacone.com. April 24th, Seattle, Washington. April 25th, Portland, Oregon. May 14th, Indianapolis. May 15th, Detroit, baby. May 16th, Cleveland. And there are tour dates all throughout 2020. Louisville, Nashville, Atlanta. Tickets are coming soon. Hold tight, Atlanta. The tickets will be available real soon. Chicago, Milwaukee, Richmond, Virginia, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., New York City, Boston, Portland, Maine, Burlington, Vermont, Madison, Wisconsin, Minneapolis, Minnesota. See you soon on the road. Romplacone.com for all those tickets. If you want to support this show on the sustainability end, please do consider becoming a patron. Patreon.com/Romplacone. For a give what you can level, you get all kinds of exclusive content. A patrons only stream once a week where I only respond to the patrons. You get my album for download in its entirety. All kinds of cool perks. And what do you help do? You help expand the show. I really want to start making mini documentaries about city-owned internet and municipal broadband. I want to spread that movement. I want to start working harder to get city internet in my community and elsewhere in the country. I need more resources to make that a reality. Even $1 a month goes a long way. Patreon.com/Ron Placone. You're also helping expand my Sounds of Revolution series, where I'm going to be talking to musicians and authors and other creative types about what they want to see in 2020. Jill Stein was our first guest. It was a really fun time. All right. Inks Pixels, what's up? Shaving a haircut, 2 bits. Yes, I did. Thank you very much for that, Inks Pixels. Which, by the way, check out LucyandRon.com for all the latest Lucy and Ron comics. Lucy has a lot to say, and LucyandRon.com if you want to check that out. And, if you want to support a different platform, I know some of you're kind of over the YouTubes, Rockfin. I am on Rockfin along with Graham Elwood, along with the Combo Couch, along with Nico House. You sign up over at Rockfin. You go ahead and give Ron Placone an endorsement. Go ahead and give me an endorsement. And for a monthly membership, you get all of our content ad-free. Everything that I put on YouTube and every podcast, it's all on Rockfin as well. And it's all ad-free. So if you want an ad-free crypto alternative to YouTube, rockfin.com. That's ROKFIN.com. Sign up. Make sure you endorse Ron Placone. Thank you guys so much. We will be back tomorrow. It's been a kind of weird week with the construction issues, but we've been plowing through, and it's been going good. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same channel, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. In the meantime, Lucy's right here, by the way. I don't know if you can see, but she's been chilling on the desk the whole time. But anyway, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. I say peace. Peace.